Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to today's reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. We're reading from the Adi Lila, chapter 7, verse 84 onwards. Kam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripa tamham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. Verse 84. Religiosity, economic development, and sense gratification and liberation are known as the four goals of life. But before love of Godhead, the fifth and highest goal, these appear as insignificant as straw in the street. Purport: while chanting the holy name of the Lord, one should not desire the material advancements represented by religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and ultimately liberation from the material world. As stated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the highest perfection in life is to develop one's love for Krishna, prema pum artho mahan Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhur matam idam. When we compare love of Godhead with religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, we can understand that these achievements may be desirable objectives for mumukshus, or those who desire to enjoy this material world, and mumukshus, or those who desire liberation from it. But they are very insignificant in the eyes of a pure devotee who has developed bhav, the preliminary stage of love of Godhead. Dharma, religiosity, artha, economic development, kama, sense gratification, and moksha, liberation, are the four principles of religion that pertain to the material world. Therefore, in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is declared Dharma Projeta Kaitavo Atra. Cheating religious systems in terms of these four material principles are completely discarded from Srimad Bhagavatam. For Srimad Bhagavatam teaches only how to develop one's dormant love of God. The Bhagavad Gita is the preliminary study of Srimad Bhagavatam, and therefore it ends with the words Sarva Dharmam Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verse 66. To adopt this means one should reject all ideas of religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, and fully engage in the service of the Lord, which is transcendental to these four principles. Love of Godhead is the original function of the spirit soul, and it is as eternal as the soul and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This eternity is called Sanatan. When a devotee revives his loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it should be understood that he has been successful in achieving the desired goal of his life. At that time, everything is automatically done by the mercy of the holy name, and the devotee automatically advances in his spiritual progress. Verse 85. For a devotee who has actually developed bhav, the pleasure derived from dharma, artha, kama, and moksha appears like a drop in the presence of the sea. Verse 86. The conclusion of all revealed scriptures is that one should awaken his dormant love of Godhead. You are greatly fortunate to have already done so. Verse 87. It is a characteristic of love of Godhead that by nature it induces transcendental symptoms in one's body and makes one more and more greedy to achieve the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Verse 88. When one actually develops love of Godhead, he naturally sometimes cries, sometimes laughs, sometimes chants, and sometimes runs here and there just like a madman. Purport: in this connection, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami says that sometimes persons who have no love of Godhead at all display ecstatic bodily symptoms. Artificially, they sometimes laugh, cry, and dance, just like madmen. but this cannot help one progress in Krishna consciousness. Rather, such artificial agitation of the body is to be given up when one naturally develops the necessary bodily symptoms. Actual blissful life manifested in genuine spiritual laughing, crying, and dancing is the symptom of real advancement in Krishna consciousness, which can be achieved by a person who always voluntarily engages in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. If one who is not yet developed imitates such symptoms artificially, he creates chaos in the spiritual life of human society. Verses 89 and 90. Perspiration, trembling, standing on end of one's bodily hairs, tears, faltering voice, fading complexion, madness, melancholy, patience, pride, joy, and humility. These are various natural symptoms of ecstatic love of Godhead, which causes a devotee to dance and float in an ocean of transcendental bliss while chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Purport: Srila Jiva Goswami in his Priti Sandarbha 66 explains this stage of love of Godhead. Bhagavad Priti Rupa Vrittir Mayadi Mai Na Bhavati Kim Tarhi Swarupa Shakti Ananda Rupa Yad Ananda Paradina Shri Bhagwan Apiti. Similarly, in the 69th text, he offers further explanation. Tad evam priter lakshanam chitta dravastasya cha roma harshadikam kathanshij jate api chitta drave roma harshadike vana ched ashaya shuddhis tadapi na bhaktehet samyak avirbhav iti jnapitam. Ashaya Shuddhir Nama Chanya Tatparya Parityagaha Priti Tatparyam Cha Ata Evan Nimitta Swabhaviki Cheti Tad Visheshanam. Transcendental love of Godhead is not under the jurisdiction of the material nature, for it is the transcendental bliss and pleasure potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since the Supreme Lord is also under the influence of transcendental bliss, when one comes in touch with such bliss and love of Godhead, one's heart melts and the symptoms of this are standing of the hairs on end, etc. Sometimes a person thus melts and manifests these transcendental symptoms, yet at the same time is not well behaved in his personal transactions. This indicates that he has not yet reached complete perfection in devotional life. In other words, a devotee who dances in ecstasy but after dancing and crying appears to be attracted to material affairs has not reached the perfection of devotional service, which is called Ashaya Shuddhi, or the perfection of existence. One who attains the perfection of existence is completely averse to material enjoyment and engrossed in transcendental love of Godhead. It is therefore to be concluded that the ecstatic symptoms of Ashaya Shuddhi are visible when a devotee's service has no material cause and is purely spiritual in nature. These are characteristics of transcendental love of Godhead as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.6. Sa vai pumsam parodharmo yato bhaktir adokshaje ahetuki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. That religion is best which causes its followers to become ecstatic in love of God, which is unmotivated and free from material impediments, for this alone can completely satisfy the self. Verse 99. It is very good, my dear child, that you have attained the supreme goal of life by developing love of Godhead. Thus you have pleased me very much, and I am very much obliged to you. Purport: according to the revealed scriptures, if a spiritual master can convert even one soul into a perfectly pure devotee, his mission in life is fulfilled. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur always used to say, even at the expense of all the properties, temples and mathas that I have, if I could convert even one person into a pure devotee, my mission would be fulfilled. It is very difficult, however, to understand the science of Krishna, what to speak of developing love of Godhead. Therefore, if by the grace of Lord Chaitanya and the spiritual master, a disciple attains the standards of pure devotional service, the spiritual master is very happy. The spiritual master is not actually happy if the disciple brings him money, but when he sees that a disciple is following the regulative principles and advancing in spiritual life, he is very glad and feels obliged to such an advanced disciple. Verse 92, my dear child, continue dancing, chanting and performing Sankirtan in association with devotees. Furthermore, and preach the value of chanting Krishna Nam, for by this process you will be able to deliver all fallen souls. Purport, it is another ambition of the spiritual master to see his disciples not only chant, dance and follow the regulative principles, but also preach the Sankirtan movement to others in order to deliver them. For the Krishna consciousness movement is based on the principle that one should become as perfect as possible in devotional service oneself and also preach the cult for others' benefit. There are two classes of unalloyed devotees, namely Goshtiyanandis and Bhajananandis. Bhajananandi refers to one who is satisfied to cultivate devotional service for himself, and Goshtiyanandi is one who is not satisfied simply to become perfect himself but wants to see others also take advantage of the holy name of the Lord and advance in spiritual life. The outstanding example is Prahlad Maharaj. When he was offered a benediction by Lord Nrsimhadev, Prahlad Maharaj said, Naimod Vijay Para Duratyaya Vetaranyas Twadvirya Gayana Mahamrita Magnachitta Shoche Tato Vimukha Chetasa Indriyartha Maya Sukhaya Bharam Udvahato Vimudhan. My dear Lord, I have no problems and want no benediction from you, because I am quite satisfied to chant your holy name. This is sufficient for me, because whenever I chant, I immediately merge in an ocean of transcendental bliss. I only lament to see others bereft of your love. They are rotting in material activities for transient material pleasure and spoiling their lives, toiling all day and night simply for sense gratification. With no attachment for love of Godhead, I am simply lamenting for them and devising various plans to deliver them from the clutches of Maya. This is from Bhagavatam 7.9.43. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains in his Anubhashya, a person who has attracted the attention of spiritual master by his sincere services likes to dance and chant with similar developed Krishna conscious devotees. The spiritual master authorizes such a devotee to deliver fallen souls in all parts of the world. Those who are not advanced prefer to chant the Hare Krishna mantra in a solitary place. Such activities constitute, in the language of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, a type of cheating process, in the sense they imitate the activities of exalted personalities like Haridas Thakur. One should not attempt to imitate such exalted devotees. Rather, everyone should endeavor to preach the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in all parts of the world and thus become successful in spiritual life. One who is not very expert in preaching may chant in a secluded place, avoiding bad association, but for one who is actually advanced, preaching and meeting people who are not engaged in devotional service are not disadvantages. A devotee gives the non-devotees his association but is not affected by their misbehavior. Thus, by the activities of a pure devotee, even those who are bereft of love of Godhead get a chance to become devotees of the Lord one day. In this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur advises that one discuss the verse in Srimad Bhagavatam beginning Naitat Samachare Jatu Manasapi Hi Anishwaraha, which is from 10th canto, chapter 33, verse 30, and the following verse in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.255 Anasaktasya Vishayan Yatharaham Upayunjataha Nirabandha Krishna Sambandhe Yuktam Vairagyam Uchyate. One should not imitate the activities of great personalities. One should be detached from material enjoyment and should accept everything in connection with Krishna's service. So we'll continue our reading from here onwards next time. Thank you for joining. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.